So from Luise and I as well, welcome and thank you very much for joining our session today, where we are going to talk about how we took an idea that we had and that we wanted to build from a proof of concept as a typical maker to an actual enterprise-ready solution. And I will start by introducing my colleague and my blanking whatever, my friend, because I think I can call her a friend.
Yeah, of course.
There we go. I will start by introducing Luise, who is also known as Her Royal Highness, the Microsoft 365 Princess. She's a workplace consultant, Microsoft 365 consultant, a low-code dev. She's also part of the PNP team, and really, she is a nerd. She blogs and she tweets a lot, and I am very happy that I get to work on our little baby with her.
Yeah, so this gives me the opportunity to talk a little bit more about Carmen. So please, dear audience, meet Carmen, my friend. She's a senior Power Platform developer, a serial learner, which I totally like, a dog mom. So she seriously has the cutest dog ever, and I hope she is posting more pictures of the cute little dog soon on Twitter. She's a blogger, and I hope to nudge her to be more on Twitter as well. And she's really my partner in crime in this project. And the amount of cups of coffee that I needed to drink to stay up, because I needed to stay on track with her, is just like tremendous. But I really hope that you like what we were cooking for you. Okay, so we thought, hey, we're both makers and we both did apps, and what if we just like make an app for Teams, because Teams is still a super hot thing, and it could be that most people will like it if we do an app not only in Teams but also for Teams. So, and we thought, hey, how hard can it be? Right? So this is always this without a single line of code, and we can just do a proof of concept and it shouldn't take long. And yeah, well, so these were just like very, very famous last words, because you have no clue how hard it can be to really make an app that is not just like a proof of concept, but it is really enterprise ready. So we made a wish list for our Canvas app that we wanted to have. So I wanted to upskill users regarding Teams. And first of this is a platform, and needs to foster your productivity approach. And I wanted to let people reflect on their working behavior, because in my M365 consultancy, I am seriously fed up of people that just like do not want to change their working behavior, but just want to change a tool, and then they do show the same working behavior as they showed before as well. So the app that I had in mind was I would like to gather requirements of the team of their dreams and then build this for them, so that they have this feeling of already have a fully furnished apartment instead of having an empty room where they need to figure out what suits best for them. So we want to upskill. We need reflection, and we need to gather requirements. And this was the idea for the app. So let's see how this goes. We have a little bit of demo time, so I'm happy to do this with you together. Wait. Oh. Okay.
Very appropriate background for the day, I have to say.
Right? So no coincidences, Carmen, no coincidences. So let me take you to Power App Studio. So what you see right now is what Carmen and I call the baby, because it really feels like it started very, very small and it is growing tremendously fast, and we have feelings about it. So and it, as we needed a name, and we were kind of in this stage where we were only developing features and thinking about the look and feel of the app, we did not come up with a name yet. So this baby is now called the baby, just so you know, but we will pick on that a little bit later. So what we do is we guide our users through some reflections on how to work in Teams, and we provide detailed information about what Teams has to offer and which approach could be beneficial for you. So we have this very, very nice menu here, and we guide people through, hey, what's the name of your desired team and the description and team's owner, and would you like to have a welcome package? And of course, we explain what is a welcome package. So you will find detailed information here in this sidebar. And if you do not know what you should type in here, or if you just like need a little bit more guidance, we will link you to some more content, videos, embedded links, docs, and so on, so that we can give our users just like one unified interface where they can be upskilled, where they reflect with their team colleagues, and where they can answer this questionnaire so we know which kind of team they like to have. Same goes for channels. I believe that if we only have this channel general and we do not guide people on what our channel is made for, then most probably we will end with some mess, because then everything is in channel general, and that is not a good practice. So we ask people upfront to create a few channels so that work is still manageable. And we did this very, very nicely. So Carmen provides this as a sample as well in the PNP GitHub repository for Power App samples. So just like a shameless plug in here. And if I wanted to create a channel, so I will name it and I can add it, and now it gets listed here for your review in the gallery, and I perhaps do another one for the budget, and everything is nice, and I can still remove them here. And once I'm done, I can click on next, or I can click in my navigation to proceed to the next step. And yet again, once I need more information, I can always click into this side panel here and get information on how to use this app, or have more information regarding education, so linking to docs or linking to videos to even educate more. Similar thing goes for the library. So you all know it is pretty awesome that SharePoint and Teams are tied nicely together, but if we all dump everything in the same document library, then it will be a hassle to deal with metadata and filters and views. So like SharePoint is intended to be used, and not just like, hey, we have those 4 columns that are shown by default. So we ask people to create their own libraries. We explain how this works. They can even set a column type and fill in all data for that. So perhaps I create the ask me anything, and perhaps I ask for the favorite ice cream, and I can do this as a text or as a choice. And once I do choice, of course, there will be another field for the column values. I can save my library once I did that, click next, and once again, the side panel is there to educate me and to provide even more resources for me as a user. So same goes for lists. We could even expand this to more features, but we stayed in our, so this is what we want to have for our wish list, because Teams can provide so much, and at some point we needed to just like paper cut to not be overwhelmed. And I would now like to hand over to Carmen and let her tell a little bit more on what we do once our user says, okay, now I answered all questions.
Okay, will you present the slides, or should I?
I can do that.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, in theory.
In theory. Because you did stop presenting, so I can also take over.
Yeah. Wait, I will get there. I am pretty sure I can make this. Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's not like it's your job or anything, so.
No, and I mean, it's not that I never did this before. Okay, so here we go. So this was demo time with Luise.
Yeah.
And we will now proceed.
Yes. So we started to think about our data. Where are we going to store this? And of course, both coming from a Microsoft 365, Office 365 background, we first thought that we would store this in SharePoint, but quickly we realized, yeah, haha. Quickly we realized, of course, SharePoint is not a relational database, and we do need we have a lot of relationships in our data model. So unfortunately we said, sorry, SharePoint, but this is a job for Dataverse. So we moved over to Dataverse. That was the first evolution that we made. The second thing that we did was when we first created this provisioning process that tied together with the Canvas app, we started with Power Automate registering an app in Azure AD because we needed to make some graph calls. And then, of course, we wanted to send messages, so we needed a service account. All of this, it worked, but it was not sustainable. It would not be easy to move this to other environments, to share this with a lot of people. So no, we were not bloody beginners. Well, in the beginning we were, but by now, not anymore. We have professionalized and we made the switch to Azure Logic Apps. Instead of having an app registration, we are working with a managed identity in our Azure Logic Apps for authentication. And we are going to use an ARM template to deploy everything that is in our Azure Logic Apps to any other tenant, if you will. But what are Azure Logic Apps to start? I like to think of it as Power Automate for pro devs. That's also more or less how they market it for IT pros as well, but mostly for pro devs. You can build workflows, integrate with other services just the same as you can with Power Automate. The difference is that it's scalable. Power Automate is not scalable. It's just for, it's really meant more for personal productivity, and Logic Apps is more meant for scalable solutions. It's enterprise ready. And one of the things that even as a low-code developer, for me, it was interesting that you can actually dive into the code and you can see what is happening. You can change things more easily. You can more easily copy actions between one Logic app and another one, which is one of my main pet peeves with Power Automate, that you cannot do that. So that's really helpful when you're building something that is really an enterprise solution, or that you want to be an enterprise solution. So we did go for Azure Logic Apps instead of Power Automate. And the main reasons are that it is more cost efficient. The billing is differently. It works with a subscription instead of, or subscription based on the number of actions that you do instead of a user-based license. The distribution and deployment, this was one of the main deal breakers, is a lot easier with Azure Logic Apps than with Power Automate. Another thing is that it runs in context of the application and not in context of the user, which of course Power Automate by default runs in context of the user. With that app registration, you can make it run outside of the context of the user, but still it will always be tied to that user who is the owner of that Power Automate flow. It is more large scale. We can put a lot into parameters, which we can then fill in from outside the Logic app. And as Luise mentioned, I am a serial learner, so I want to learn everything. So I was more than happy to dive into Azure Logic Apps next. And now it's demo time for me. So let me take over the screen share. And let's make sure that I have everything open. Share my screen. No. So if we look at Azure, I have created a resource group. There we go. I've created a resource group where I have all of my resources in there. And this is, you can say that it was similar to solutions in Power Platform, where you actually group your Logic apps and your connections and all of the other resources that you have related to the one project in one resource group. And looking at the logic apps, I have 6 at the moment. So I have one main logic app flow, which is the ruler of all of the other logic apps. So if I go into my main flow, that is one of the first things that we did, is instead of putting all of the logic that we have into one logic app, where you create a theme and then you create the libraries and lists and the channels, and then we add the welcome package. Instead of having all of that logic in one flow, we split that up into one main flow, which is now, for now, still called Teams Advisor. That was before we were calling it the baby.
We have history.
Yeah, we do have a history. That's why it's really been a journey. So instead of having all of that logic in just one flow, we have one main flow that takes care of the logic of getting that data from Dataverse, and then deciding, okay, so we first create the team, and then we create the channels, and then maybe we add a list and a library in those channels or just in the team. And from that main flow, we call those child flows. So we have some initialization, then we get the channels from Dataverse, and then we are going to create the team. And the main advantage of this is that those child flows, they only need to worry about their specific task. So that create a team flow only needs to create the team and doesn't care if there are other channels that will be added later, or lists that are added later, or libraries, whatever. All channels it does take into account, but lists, libraries, whatever. And the same for those lists and libraries. They just take a SharePoint site or a SharePoint site, because of course they are created in the SharePoint site. For the SharePoint site is SharePoint site is backing the Microsoft Teams team. Wow. So it just gets the site ID, and then the library or that list is created in that site. And it doesn't care if there is a team link to that site or not. It just creates the list or the library in that site. So it's really easy to create those individual components and then link them together in the main flow. And if I want to change one of those individual components, I just need to change that component, that flow. I don't need to go into my large flow, which has all of the logic, and go find where it is I'm looking, or whatever it is I'm looking for, and then change that. So it makes it a lot more easy to maintain this, to extend it as well, because as Luise mentioned, we have a lot more ideas to add to the application later on, more resources that we want to add to the team that we provision. And we can do that in by just adding components and then tying those components into the main flow. Plus, I can also test my subcomponents individually, which is a big bonus as well. But then this is just in one tenant. Oh, another thing that I want to say, we made a switch from an app registration to a managed identity. So what does that mean? That we don't have an app registration in Azure AD anymore. We don't need to work with a secret and then worry about when we share this with other people that our secret gets lost somehow, or in the run history that our secret would be visible somehow. So we have a managed identity that we have created for the resource group, and we use that when we are, for example, going to create the team. We don't need to worry about passwords anymore. We just specify when we make the graph call, we just specify that we are using our managed identity, and Azure takes care of authentication itself. No passwords that will retire, but it's not retire. My God.
It's expire.
Expire.
So usually the secret expires on the day you want to demo it. Yeah. This is my experience.
Yeah, always happens. So we don't have to worry about it anymore. Azure takes care of all of that itself. And now this is all in one tenant. We have our logic apps. And then the next thing that we wanted to do was, how do we get this to another tenant? Because for one thing, Luise and I are working on separate tenants. So at some point we need to make sure that our two solutions can actually work together. So we need to get them on one tenant. And we also want to make this available to whoever else wants to use it. So we need to make sure that we get this outside of my tenant and onto any other tenant. And that's why we are going to export a template, an ARM template, and then work on that template. Because when you simply export that template, you get one file where everything is added into that one file. I have my connections here, I have my managed identity here, I have my workflows here. And my one file is almost 3,000 lines long. And
is this the without a single line of code thingy that Microsoft?
Yeah, that's the without a single line of code thing that is Power Automate. That's not without a single line of code anymore, especially if you want to go to really deploy it to other tenants.
Yeah, I want it.
So here we have about 3,000 lines of code. And as mentioned multiple times before, we are not done with this thing yet. So this is really not, we have lost all of the advantages of splitting the flow into separate workflows and having those components that are easy to edit, easy to test, easy to manage, deploy, and to tie together in one main flow. We have lost those advantages. So we will make some changes and get a really robust ARM template that we can deploy, that we can put on GitHub so that it is easy to work on the individual components. Because if, let's say that you open source it and someone has an idea to change the create list, to create a list workflow, they would have to work on that one template, which is not really nice, because then if you want to do a pull request and there are some merge conflicts, it's just a lot more risk. So we split all of those workflows that we had here in the one template. We split those into separate files, and this bar, for some reason, since yesterday, doesn't want to disappear anymore. So let me see if I can click below it. No, of course I cannot. So I'm splitting my one template file into separate template files, and then I'm just referencing those in my Azure Deploy main file, where I have a deployment for the create a list workflow, the create a team flow, or Logic App create library, and all of those are as separate files where we have a lot of parameters. So we are parameterizing a lot. Like if it can be in a parameter, we will put it into a parameter. Where we will
love parameters.
Yes, we love them because for one, we can protect our own information, like this subscription ID should be a parameter. So we are still working on this. It should be a parameter. And also because then those parameters can be fed in at the time of deployment so that we do not run into any deployment errors or like conflicts, because the subscription ID that I have that is hard-coded here will not be the subscription ID of the Azure subscription on the tenant where it is deployed to. So a lot of things to take into account, and we are far from, as Luise said, that without a single line of code story that is Power Automate on the Power Platform.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit away, yeah. So let me go back to the slides. So I have demoed. What does this mean for licensing and costs? And then afterwards, I will hand it back over to you, Luise. So for licensing and costs, of course, we all know that the Power Platform is, well, if you want to work with Logic Apps, if you want to work with Dataverse, you do need a Power Apps per app or per user plan for this. And why do we want to have Dataverse? Because we are using Power Apps as a seeded license. The Canvas app only uses standard controls, standard connectors, nothing premium. But we are using Dataverse as a data source because the idea is that we have a robust, enterprise-ready, reliable solution. And yes, you could, in theory, use Dataverse for Teams as a data source for this. But Dataverse for Teams is kind of the same story as Power Automate versus Logic Apps, where Power Automate is for personal productivity. Dataverse for Teams is for your teams, for that team's productivity and improvement. A team has a life cycle. We do not want a business critical application like this could potentially be, which is run in your entire organization. We do not want this to run in Dataverse for Teams, but we prefer to have it run in Dataverse, which then, because that's Microsoft's pricing, of course, you need a premium license. You need a Power Apps per app or per user plan for all of the users that are potentially using this application. The good thing is that because we are working with Azure Logic Apps, we need an Azure Logic, or we need an Azure subscription. But we have found that for now, and there is some margin still, there is less than 1 cent per request of your Teams application. So per team that is created using the application, that's less than 1 cent in your Azure bill. So that is definitely not the cost. And then, Luise, I will hand it back over to you. And I'm wondering why there we go, the bar is gone.
Yeah, well, so of course we have big plans. So what is already done? The AM template. So yeah, this was the last minute change of the slides, and of course it was AM, so that should be an ARM template. But hey, we did already the Canvas app and all our 5 Dataverse tables plus option sets. The Logic app flows are already in place. The ARM template is there. I created a GitHub repository. So what we are working right now on is the deployment guides. Documentation, hey, wow, documentation. So I had no clue how much time it takes to document a Power Platform solution, just like not writing some controls down, but just like really documenting it. Working on a website as well to feature this baby a little bit more. And of course, we want to have one of those super fancy deploy to Azure buttons. So shouldn't take long, as we always say, because we already have this nice ARM template. But our plans are big, so very, very soon, not Microsoft soon, but really soon, you will find the solution on GitHub. Please do add feature requests, just like what you see in your own work, what could be beneficial here as well. And please do start to contribute to it, because we welcome contributions and we want this to be a community thing. So this will be open source and free of charge, but we would like to have your input, of course, as well. So we thought about features to add, and of course, we want to add members. We want to add guests. Super, super nice, because this is like a #1 request, and all my customers, hey, we need to have a decent workflow on how to invite guests to our tenant and add them to a specific team. And creating private channels is very, very top of mind as well. Perhaps an approval, so we all saw that before, so we did not include this into our version 1, but of course we will add an approval, or perhaps single step or multi-step approval. We want to have a notebook, because the ugly wiki, we do not like it for about a gazillion of reasons. I personally do not like it, because once you remove the wiki from the team and it does not say delete, it says remove, then you will just like hard delete all its content. And if your personal or team's knowledge management is just like depending on this wiki, then you're really screwed up. So we don't like the wikis, so which is why we do not only like to delete it up front, but also provide an alternative. And we think that a OneNote notebook could be suitable for that. And once we already created lists and libraries, which are my personal favorite to store documents and information inside of a team, we want to link those lists to a particular channel. So, and pin this then as a tab. So these are the features that we have in mind right now, but we're very curious what you would add, and we need some help. So yeah, so please help us name the baby, because the baby does not have a name yet. And you will find a QR code and a short link to a form where we ask you for a name. And of course, if you like to, you can provide us some feedback. And if you give us your email address, we will keep you posted on the progress of the baby. So does this mean that we are looking for a babysitter, Carmen?
Well, yes. I think it means that we are kind of looking for some babysitters to help us in develop our baby, and help us extend it, help us educate it so that it can do more things, that it can grow into an awesome solution that can be used by everyone who wants to use it.
Yeah. So I saw that we had a couple of questions in the chat. So regarding licensing and features and permissions, and so perhaps our gorgeous moderator can perhaps read them for us, or yeah, moderate this for us.
Hi. Yeah, you did have a couple of things going. So great session. Kept me entertained this early in the morning, so love it. Learning and laughing, always the best. Okay, so a lot was around permissions and licensing, you're right. So you know, what kind of permissions should I have, or should the service account have, to perform these tasks, was one of those.
Yeah, so we do not have, so in the beginning we had a service account, because some of the actions that we do wanted to perform did lack of app level permissions API. So originally we planned to even provision a planner, but planner does lack of app level permissions, so we needed to have this service account, and we chose to not do this anymore because it felt wrong for some reasons, because we did not want to have this as a service account, and then MFA kicks in, and then we needed to disable that. So it felt just like unprofessional and insecure, and it just like not deployable. So we chose against this, and this is why we said we do not only provide a welcome package if our user wants this, just like a message on how, dear owner, so this is the team that we created, and here's some additional learning material for you, but also we ask our user if they want to have a SharePoint list customized for their task management, because we can easily do a list with a lot of columns and views and stuff, and everything looks nice, and do this with app level permission and not having any issues, but we can't do this with Planner, so Planner was out. And the message that we sent to the user, we do this as the Flowbot, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So at different stages we did different things. This is why I always need to check in what we're doing right now. Yeah, it's just like the baby is growing, right? So wow, you grew.
It's an evolution, you know, and I think those things will come in. So as all of that gets easier for you to tie up in the back end, you know, the whole thing will evolve, right?
Yeah. So exactly.
That's kind of the point. So hopefully some new members of your baby's family will come and bring that knowledge to GitHub for you. How that can be tied up.
We hope so. Yeah. So we are not using any service account anymore.
Okay. So lots of praise, which is always nice. So what's this one? So much better than the solution we paid a lot for. Okay. It takes some time for you to create the team in code to the team. And you can create lists and libraries there. How do you manage that in the app? I'm not quite sure of the question. Maybe we need.
It takes some time from.
So it takes some time from. You can create the team in code to the team is created. Okay, and can you create lists and libraries there? So I'm saying, can the whole thing be deployed as a package?
You can just like speak up. So if Tanya's still in the meeting.
Let me just take the hard mute off 1 second.
I think they're talking about when you send a request to create a team, it takes some time for the team to actually be created.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
So we have a hack for that.
Yeah, we have a hack for that. because when you send a request to create the team or to create the group and then teamify that group, you get you get like a location where you can check the status of that creation. And we only continue in the flow, in the process, after we know when we get a success message that our team has actually been created, or first our group has been created, and then our group has been teamified, and only then do we continue with the creation process. So that's the way that we handle that in the app.
Okay, I've allowed the person that asked that question to unmute themselves. If that does or doesn't clarify, please could you unmute and have a chat with us about that?
That was the answer, and I really want to know how I can implement that in my solution.
Well, that's great, because it will all be when once it's on GitHub, it will all be there, so you can check it out for yourself. And I will see if I can find the resources again where it's explained.
Okay, thank you.
And then we have a go vote for the planner app level permissions, which is always nice. And just lots of love you ladies, and you rock, which is awesome. So I don't think we have any more questions in there. I'll just post in the feedback link so that people can provide feedback on your session, which always helps all the speakers improve, and the organisers, know which sessions you like and which you want more of. Anything else, ladies, that you want to add to this? Do you want to pop a link in the chat to any of your GitHub repositories or anything for the user?
Yeah, so right now the GitHub repository, so it is there, and we already did the license and issue templates and everything, but the code is not present yet. So which is why we gave you this feedback link for naming the baby, and if you give us that, so then we will keep you posted once the status updates, so that you do not need to check on a daily basis if the code is already there. So bit.ly/help us name the baby, that would be your link to help us not only naming the baby, but also providing feedback on the session, of course, but on the solution itself as well, and make sure that you get updates. So we do not want to spam you, but we want to make sure that if you're interested, that you get a link and can then decide if you like to contribute and add some feature ideas. So thing is, what we wanted to tell with this session is not only the solution itself, because yeah, it looks pretty cool, right? So I'm really pleased to see that, but that this kind of thing evolved. So it was just like a very ugly flow with just like a bazillion of graph calls, and everything was just like a mess. And then there was a very ugly Canvas app as well. And then we professionalized this thing. And in the meantime, we really have a schedule in which we work, and we do sprints, and we have tools for that. And so it is really growing, and it is a very cool experience to work with another maker that is not present, but just like so distributed work. So that is a nice experience as well. And it is not the first time that we talk about this solution at a conference or at a meetup, but there is always some progress. So and this is what we like to share, that even if something is not finished, because the software is never finished, that so that would be so that was the fairy tale part of it, that it's actually quite nice to share something so that others can learn from that, because this is why we are all here, because again, shameless flag sharing is caring.
No, I think it's absolutely, it's brilliant. This call to community, this kind of getting everybody involved, is fantastic. It's the kind of projects that we need. So it's really great that you're kicking that off, and great to be, announced here at Team Nation, where a lot of the community is hanging out. So thank you very much. Fantastic session. Nothing but the baby become a lot prettier since the last time I saw it. Okay.
Yeah, you don't say that someone's baby is ugly, right? So,
no, that hurts.
I love it. I love it. So,
as long as we're saying
may,
it gets
may I ask our gorgeous audience some questions, and they could use the virtual hand feature in Teams. I would like to know who of you would consider to use the baby, and please raise your hand and only lower it again once we saw the hand count. Is this hand count? I don't know.
Okay, go
I raised my hand as well.
Yeah, would you use it? Okay, so thank you very much. My second question is, of course, who would consider to contribute to the baby? Adding features, improving the UI of the Canvas app, or improving the ARM template, or improving or adding logic app flows, or improving our data model, or fixing documentation issues, or even providing fancy new PowerPoint slides, or so whatever it is. So this all is a contribution. Or ideas like, hey, I do have it, so I have no clue, but I would like to see something, and then name the something. Yeah,
Okay,
cool.
that's a similar number.
Ooh.
That is quite nice. So looking forward to your contributions. I really like that.
Okay, so if there's no, I'll just check the chat again because I'm busy watching the participants put their hands up and down. 1 second.
There's so much going on in a session, right? So glad
Chaos
you're
around
here,
you, Luise. I'm never sure. Okay, so nice, cool. I think that brings the session to an end. Thank you so much, ladies, and bang on time as well. Awesome, well done. So any questions for these ladies? They are prevalent on Twitter and LinkedIn, so do go and seek them out and see if you can get involved in the project. That would be absolutely awesome if we can kick off more community involvement in something that this, evolutionary, and it'd be great to see the baby when it becomes a toddler, I guess. Looking forward to that.
Now we have a new name.
Toddler.
Oh no, not a Microsoft renaming convention, right?
No.
Power something. Okay, all right. So thanks very much, ladies. Thank you, audience. I'll put the slide up for the next session to come along, but a quick round of applause for the ladies and this presentation. Great to see you both, and we will see you again soon, no doubt.
Thank you for moderating as well, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Have a nice one. Good conference,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.